Alright, so once again, a very warm welcome, Ravisha, for joining me today on this podcast. And communication, especially, we have chosen topic for today's podcast is future of communication. And communication is the basis of our existence, is what I believe. From the very beginnings of the planet, I think species communicated with each other, interacted with each other to find a peaceful coexistence, and that's how things started to shape up. So today, with your esteemed presence, I would just like to highlight for the audience who is going to listen to this. Ravisha is a charismatic guest we have today who has been training corporates and executives, leaders, enterprises, individuals from the last 2 decades on effective communication. So today we are going to have a word with her. A lot of candid questions will happen. There is nothing which is pre-prepared other than a few things which I personally wanted to ask you. So let's hear it from you, Ravisha. What change have you seen? I think we can start it from here. In the last 2 decades, as far as effective communication strategies shift is concerned.
First and the foremost thing that has happened is, I think we are slightly moving away from a colonial mindset. And that's a very stark statement to say. But what happens is we have always been dominated, especially if you see the corporate culture, it's very colonial dominated. And the leaders or the people in leadership roles have this thing that, they have to be very prim and proper, and they fear even talking about being vulnerable. Right? And communication is not just English and words and jargons. It's never been about that. We
Absolutely.
have made it about this. Yes, content and words are a part of it because you need words to communicate. But there's so much more to it. There's connect, there's feelings, right? There's responding, then there's reacting. I think that is something that has now changed. People are becoming more open, especially in the sessions that I take. The first thing I say is, if you want to come out as I am a dictator and I have my, head like this and everybody should listen to me, I'm not the right person for you, because that's not the motive of communicating. The motive is to be able to connect with anybody you meet, any place you meet. I think that's something that we're shifting towards.
Have you seen that kind of trend while working with corporate somehow? That happens from the senior management, it goes like that to the lower
Yes.
management or the middle management?
Yes.
It does. Okay. So how do you see a role of technology in mitigating this?
As far as I am concerned, and as far as I think how technology has helped me, if I give you my personal example, in that at a particular point of time, there were a lot of physical classes which we used to do. We used to train people physically, and it still happens. It's still the most favorite thing to do. But having an access like you and I, we're sitting a flight across distance and we're still able to have a conversation. That is one great thing that has happened. Secondly, we've always talked that, find a crowd, find a tribe where you can talk. Having an online presence has given people that safe society. Sometimes people have that safe environment. Even if it's an online thing, maybe people going live on Instagram or however, they have found another playground other than the people they knew. Earlier, it was like my family, my friends, and my colleagues.
Yeah,
Now it's like,
that
okay,
exposure has increased. Yeah.
correct. That has happened, and I believe I have not dived into it much, but there are a couple of apps that are helping people learn languages. Like maybe people who have difficulty with articulation or enunciation. It has really been helping, which is a great thing because learning a language is very different than communication skills. Even in communication, 22% weightage is given to words, but it holds a lot of weightage in our mind, while 78% is purely non-verbal. And if you master that 78%, even if you completely goof up your grammar, people connect to you. And I've seen that happen, like with people who make, and all of us make errors, right? We're not here to be grammar Nazis or pronunciation police. That's not the reason why we
No, I
communicate.
heard somebody saying that somehow the colonial mindset has made everyone linguistic slaves.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoever this person is, please, big tight up from my side if they're alive. But that is so true. That
Yeah.
is so true. Half the time that I struggle with my students is, what they go and say, I went there and I gave my speech and nobody was laughing. I said, read out your speech to me. And you will not believe half the words. I'm like, listen, you're not sitting for a GRE or IELTS exam. You are supposed to connect with people. If I have to pull out a dictionary every time I hear you, where is the time for me to connect with you, right? It's gone. The purpose is dead. The damage is
Absolutely.
done. So
True,
that is
true.
colonial mindset that if I know a better vocabulary than this person, I am better than you. If I sound in a certain way, I am better than you. That is one problem that Indians particularly, or let's say the entire Indian subcontinent which has been colonized, it does face. There is no doubt about it.
Yeah, yeah. And in
So
fact, I
that's
think
why
all the colonies of those colonial times, all those 80, 85 countries which were under them, I think the mindset still prevails. Yeah, yeah.
it's there. It doesn't go. No matter how much you say, the back of the mind, it's there. In fact, I'll give you my example. I realized it pretty late in life. At times, if I was doing a video recording and I did a grammatical error, which can happen because sometimes you just chew your words, very emotional, or say, you end up going like it would somehow bother me. And I was like, why is it bothering me? Because I've seen the most polished speakers use a lot of filler words. They stutter and they go like, because it's thinking process, right? It is not the finesse of language that you're supposed to master. It is your finesse of delivering your thoughts. It's the structure. Right?
Very well
Of
said.
course, if you can eliminate all of these, it's great. But if it pops in once in a while, don't be so hard on yourself. But
Absolutely.
that's what colonial mindset does to you.
I got recalled of one of my incidences when I was in school. I think it was grade 11. And we used
Mm-hmm.
to fill these forms for school positions, head boy, head girls, and cultural heads, and all of it. So, with my school, the advantage that we had was that when I was in grade 7, the school was still grade 7. So, we were the seniors. And as and
Okay.
when we moved upward, so we were always seniors in our school. And we always got that, chance of being the head boys, head girls right from grade 7. I remember from grade 7 to grade 11, I used to fill the form for being the house captain of the blue house which I was in. And I
Same page.
always
I
won.
was in Blue House too.
Oh, wow. So, and I used to get these votes, and there was a very well set system in our school. But in grade 11, when I filled the form again for the house captain, my
Mhm.
principal, Mrs. Ramadat, she called me and she said, Arpit, I am impressed by your track record of last 4 years of what you have done as a house captain. However, I am ashamed to see you filling the form again for house captain. Why don't you want to scale up and be the head boy for the school? Why you have lesser ambitions? And with very I think innocence, honesty, whatever. I just said that, ma'am, I am really poor with my English language skills. And as a house captain, I am inside the periphery of the school. But as a head boy, I'll have to interact with other schools and, a lot of interactions will happen. So I cannot face them if I'm not very well doing with English. And I thought that she'll appreciate my honesty, but she she even she got more pissed off with me, and she said that last 4 years you know this, that you do not have a good vocation. Then what have you done to improve it? Number one. Second, if it is just about English as a barrier to you, then you should have worked upon it. And otherwise, irrespective which language you have a command on, you are there to lead a position, not a language. So take it away from your mind and then go for it. 11th and 12th I didn't do it, but then when I entered into college, then I realized that it's not the language, it's about how you connect with people. That's the art. So as you rightly said, I think that's the art of communicating is more important than having a command on language. Yeah, absolutely.
It does happen that, when, of course, see, you were in this phase of your life where you were heading an entire, division, you're doing something regarding innovation and everything. So you need to interact with people all across the globe. And we all know that English is the global language. Everybody talks in that similar language. And if you want to be par with your peers, you need that language. But you cannot learn something if you fear it. That's what I've realized.
Absolutely.
If I am scared of my dad, I will never go tell my dad what I want to do, right? Or what I want to say. It's the same concept with anything in life. If it's English, it's maths, it's language, it's whatever Tom, Dick, and Harry. A, you've got to accept that, okay, I need to work here. B, what do I need to work here? And get a systematic person who can help you out with it. I think that's where coaching comes in, which I'm really enjoying these days. I see a lot of these ads of people teaching language. I feel really grateful because it makes a lot of my job easier. Half the time, the request that comes in is, my English is not good. I'm like, I don't teach English. Because I'm not the right person to teach.
So I think that's a very important takeaway, that communication is not limited to a language. I think that should be a takeaway for our audience from this discussion. Okay, yeah, that's great.
I am very entertaining in Hindi. I think I'm equally entertaining in Hindi. See, your mother tongue will always give you more punchy content.
Yes.
There are inside jokes that you can crack. You and I are not Americans. We have not watched rom-com and grown up. We have watched DDLJ. We have watched, other heroes, romance heroines.
I think that's the art. That's the art that has developed. That irrespective whether our mother tongue is Hindi, English, we are able to communicate, interact, pass on our message to the audience. I think that's what the other people need to learn. That's great.
That's the core message. That's the crux of the whole thing.
With these. The exposure to screen time, especially when students, these alpha generation are netizens, they are all digitized, during the parents they conceive, so mother when conceive, they are already digitized, so they are born with screens, and the studies says that 2 to 2.5 hours is the average screen time of a teenager per day. Now somehow that is impacting their social collaborations, their communication skills. So, how do you see that, and what kind of strategies do you suggest to the parents?
You know what? I'll give you a very collective answer to that. It's not just this generation; it is beyond this generation. It is for people like me and you as well. Not everybody has a place or a job where they get to interact so much. Some of them actually have a lot of desk jobs. It happens.
True.
And I see that the less they interact, the more they go into their shell. And the more they go into the shell, the more the creativity is dying. It's dying day by day. Communication is connection. Connection is in some way related to networking. If you can't connect, you are networking to connect with people, right? So you're networking on everyday basis. Like you and I, we are having a chat first for the first time, face to face. But it is in a way that we're interacting, and there's some kind of connection we'll build. Probably we'll have a recall when it comes something related to science. Maybe I'll think of you and you'll think of me when it comes to communication. But if you don't put yourself out there, which is even on the internet, people don't take the time to interact. They're like in the swiping generation. I have seen, okay, I'll give you this example, and it was one thing that really hurt me. I'm talking about a 3-year-old. Nobody, like in the teens, 3-year-old, and we were at a friend's place, and this kid was eating food, and there was an iPad, and I'll tell you the speed at which the swipe was happening. And with every swipe, and I have 2 girls, they're 6 and 8, they don't have iPad, they don't have laptops. The only time they get laptops is they have to research because they're in IB school, so it's the necessary evil. But they don't have any clear access. They have to literally beg us for getting a digital device if they want. But when I saw that 3-year-old just swiping like this, and she was not interacting with 3 other girls of similar age, I could imagine the level of disconnect, right? A 3-year-old today has replaced the fun of human connection with a device because the change is possible. Absolutely. Do you realize what that means? We are not even willing to understand the other people. We're not willing to take their feedback, their emotions, their ideas in consideration because there's a swipe away. What that does in a long run is when this generation will go and do jobs, they might have 2 things. One would be, okay, I'm going to go out there and network and I'm going to do this. And then they'll be like, oh, I'm going to be in shell because I don't want to do that. There's going to be a polarity. The polarity is never good, right? You need to be somewhere in the center. There has to be a range and scale. So the first thing I'll tell the parents is, put your devices down. Absolutely. They don't put their devices down. I know that. I am a parent. There has been time in my life when suddenly I'm on phone and my daughter will say, you put your phone down. Maybe that's a vengeful way of saying that if I'm not allowed, why are you allowed? But I realize, how can I expect my kid to be like, you do this and you learn that when I myself am not willing to invest?
Correct.
Whatever I am today is because my parents invested in me. My dad would come, he would take the time out to say, okay, open your copies. We would go out, meet people. We had no option but to visit our relatives. These days, we ask them, do you want to go? I don't want to go. It's blatantly, I don't want to go. Now what do you understand? That I will not go into an environment that I am not aware of. It's new place, I don't want to adjust with people. But isn't that what we're supposed to do?
The
Go to
consequences
a
are
new
dire.
place.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, go to a new place, adjust, learn, absorb, imbibe, evolve. None of
absolutely,
this is happening. And
absolutely.
parents are also very cool. My kid is at home. I've seen people carry iPad to functions. Like we are partying and chilling, and the kid is literally on an iPad, and I'm like,
Uh,
what just happened? Like, why? If you
better
give them
leave
a
the
crush,
better leave the
if you
kid
give
at
them a
home.
crush, they will not learn to run. It's not their fault. You have to be patient with them. You have to sacrifice a little. Our parents did that for us, Arpit. I'm sure yours did too. They
Absolutely,
did
yeah.
not party when we have our tests, and they interacted. They took us to meet people. That's why we're very jovial with whoever we meet. Not
Hmm.
every kid is going to be like this, but as a parent, you are the first people to expose them to the ecosystem of newness, the ecosystem to talk to everybody, to feel that yes, your cousin will fight with you, yes, an XYZ neighbor will battle with you, but you need to learn how to handle it. That's the first time they get exposed to the real world. But if
Yeah,
everything is
yeah.
my class and my five best friends and an iPad for the joy of life, I mean,
True,
we are
true,
sending the
true.
generation to the dogs.
Absolutely. I think yeah, this is really a horrific trend, which is like I think going across the globe, not just with one particular section of the society or any particular country or a region. I think it's rampant across, and it's really difficult. I remember one incident, Ravisha. I was just traveling from some place to some, and at the airport, I actually got late in. My flight got preponed by around 40 minutes, so I had to run to clear my immigration counter. Now, I what I saw there is the immigration line almost had around 200, in front of me. So I requested the security person. He said, I can't do anything. You just make requests to people and keep, jumping the lines and go forward. So I said, okay, if that's the only way out, let me try that out. So I started speaking to people. So it's a spiral queue.
Yes, it goes like yes,
Yeah,
yes.
so I was just crossing it straight from the sideways. So I just spoke to this particular person. I said, my flight time has got shifted and this and that. He said, okay, go ahead, move forward, move forward. So everyone was supporting me till the time I reached the third last row. Now, there is a young, a young fellow, a young adult. I think must be around 14, 15 years of age, or maybe 16. I think he was in 10th or 11th grade, and he was traveling alone from India to UAE, Dubai. He was standing there. I made the same request to him as well, that my flight timings and this, and can I move forward if you allow? And he literally said, no, sorry, come in queue. I was like, I appreciate that we have to be in queue, but please understand, your flight timing is after 2 hours and mine is just about to fly, so I'm running late. And he said, I don't think you have heard me right. Please come in queue. And then two people from the back, they started shouting, slap this guy and move forward. What are you waiting for? So others, so they started to support me, like, this. But I was like, he's a child, right? Now, but the awkwardness was that these, somehow what I felt that time was that these students, they have somehow, missed out understanding how you have to behave socially and how you have to
Yes.
react in a particular situation. You cannot be animated all the time. And then after a little, strife between the two of us, then I had to move forward, wherein I had to literally, manhandle him and tell him that, I can, do this also with you to move forward.
Yeah.
So please understand and behave and try to understand the situation and then react. But later on, I realized that it's perhaps not his fault. But last 4 or 5 years, the way they have been, undergoing this whole education ecosystem, they are not interacting with anyone. So all that they are with is their mobile phones on, continuously glued to the screen. They don't understand the environment around, and it's becoming a chaos everywhere. So yeah, so I think parents as parents, first parents themselves need to be very much updated and upgraded, and they should be doing what they want their kids to do. I think that's a transition which is going on.
They are
So
the first teachers, after all.
so often no, because we at Lab of Future we run technology programs. Uh,
Mhm.
parents do ask us, how technology is going to support communication, whether my child is going to get glued to screens or some technology products again. And then often I joke around with them. I say, see, if you have not noticed, all the machines that we work with, what we try to do with them, we try to communicate with them. We try them to communicate it back with us. So communication is the art. It's not about getting glued to any tech as such, but it's about making them work for us, or making our things easy the way machines should work for us. So that's yeah.
That's very vital. That's this is one thing about communication. I have been thinking that maybe I should. Prospects come like launch an app. I was like, even if I launch an app, the pleasure of though I am recording an online program, because I do come across a lot of people who we want to watch it at wee hours or when we have some time. So I'm like, let me record something that's very crisp. So for example, you take a course, right? And you've learned everything, you've done your keynote, and then suddenly you want to come back and like, oh, I don't remember this. Can I just go back and check it? So I've realized that a lot of Indians, not just Indians, a lot of us record courses that are like 15, 16 minutes a module. I don't think anybody has the time to watch it. Plus, it gets very mundane. So I was like, let me just record like a bite size. So even if you're walking, you just put your, headphones on and you listen to 2 to 3 minutes of bite size and you get the idea. So that's taking up the time. But nothing can take away the efficacy and the efficiency of teaching offline. Because the interaction that happens between people, the way you notice the body language of somebody walking in, the way they stand, the way they fidget, and all of these make a lot of difference, Arpit. The moment you walk through the door, I have made 80% perception about what kind of person you are. I have. Though we say don't be judgmental, but that's all we do. We do it every moment. Whoever will probably be watching this podcast is making some kind of judgment about you and me.
Absolutely.
And there is no denying that. But if you know that this is going to happen, why don't we be well prepared? Just be crisp, because somebody's watching you. So might as well get ready for that spotlight, be ready on that angle. There's nothing wrong in it. Similarly, in communication, you know that you are trying to build a brand. You're trying to, when you put things on LinkedIn, why? Because you're trying to brand yourself. It's a personal brand. And I very blatantly say, no matter what you do, if you do not polish your skills, you cannot become a personal brand. Because some fine day, you will go away from that camera. Some fine day, your editor will not be able to chop that clip. Some fine day, there will not be any transition. And you will address people. The bigger brand you aim to be, the more number of people you will have to interact. And if you can't engage with them, if you can't invigorate their senses, you are not memorable. You're not memorable, you're not a brand.
I think a lot of communications coaches themselves will perhaps get irked of what you just said, because many times the focus is more on stage presentations, effective presentations, but not actually building up those skills which can work off the stage as well. So I think I definitely agree to it, and it's really good point. I mean, whosoever will be our listeners for this interaction will take away this as an input. That's good.
I'm struggling currently with social media. I am struggling, I am battling every day, because if you create videos, you must be knowing the struggle that they say, ma'am, you have only 20 seconds because it goes viral. I said, normal people don't go talk like this, that I have only 20 seconds to put my point. If I don't put my point, somebody will scribe me, install me, and I'm not. I'm like, this is robotic.
Absolutely.
Robotic. But people are doing that. And then what happens is, when they come on stage, they have lost the sense of how to talk. Because every day you're recording yourself, you're practicing or something. So that natural ease of going with the flow, where you make mistakes also, where you forget also, you've lost that practice. We are becoming bipolar. Honestly, we're becoming bipolar when it comes to communication. So there's so many amazing people that you see on the web, and when they come in person and you go like, really? Like, how, what, did I miss something? Is it the same person? It happens. I have literally witnessed it.
Yeah,
and believe me, the disappointment is heartbreaking. I'm like, what happened? And then, somebody next to me said, there is no teleprompter. They've forgotten to express themselves. It's not this. They've just forgotten to express themselves because they're creating content for numbers, not for connection. It's become more like a quantity than a quality. And connecting and brand building is all about quality. It's never been about quantity.
Absolutely. So in your reach out to people, are you also dealing with segment which is like under 18? I read about your school, your work in schools. Yeah.
Yes. So I do train a couple of students who apply to Ivy League colleges. That's kind of my forte. Because what happens is, if you have ever heard the story of somebody who's cracked probably an MIT or a Harvard, they are never the kinds of people who would not spark a conversation. They're not about perfectionism. They're about, there's something about you I want to know. People always want to speak to somebody who's kind of slightly like an enigma, right? You have a story to tell. So I specialize in storytelling, and I believe that even if you're just launching the most boring product or giving the most mundane presentation, you can include story. I'll give you a very simple example that I help my students with. If there's a CEO, right, and he's probably in the morning about to give a thing that this is the sale that happened in this quarter and we had a jump of this much, he can simply go on stage and say, in this quarter we did X number of sales and there was X number of jump in, this. But if the other guy says, morning I woke up and I was like fidgeting. So I entered the office, grabbed a cup of coffee, and Regina just hands me over this envelope. I'm contemplating whether to open it or not. But guys, we put in so much of effort, and no matter what, these numbers are a proof that we've worked hard. They might be in our favor, they might not be, but whatever it is, we know we can turn the tables. It's up to us. And then this person opens up an envelope and delivers. Who do you think people will like?
Absolutely. I think you have made the point. Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And same goes with students. When they sit down, if they say, I have scored this much in my CGPA, I've done this. No. Tell them where you goofed up. I bunked my classes. I did this. I was vulnerable. Like, you have to be realistic with them because they have seen way too many picture perfect stories. There is nothing that stands you apart if you're just trying to be perfect. And the whole world is running behind perfection. So if you are perfect, honestly, you're not standing out, you're just blending in. That's the logic if you understand. Make mistakes. People love pointing out mistakes, and that's okay. But then it could be something they'll talk about 2 to 3 days. But if they talk about you, it's fine. At least that's how this current 10 years I've seen. These days, it's like, okay, people are talking about me. Even if I've committed a mistake, people are like, okay with that. They're talking about me, right? I will always have time to recuperate from it, but let them talk about me first. I'm like, okay, that also works. Anything that gets people talking. So with schools, I always tell them that it's very important to tell your kids to be a little more candid. Because once you become candid, you open. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think now with increasing diversity of all the global practices, let's say, or the whole market has opened up, people jumping from one nation to the other. Like right now, I am working in UAE, sitting here, connecting with the rest of the world. Students will have more of these opportunities in the coming time. So, what remains your suggestion in developing this cross-cultural communication, effective communication? Because that's also one barrier which a lot of students from all nationalities they face.
Believe you me, it's very easy. It's something that the soft skills have developed. See, there's a basic etiquette. Let's leave that. We're just talking about connecting with people. I went to Estonia and there were people from all across the globe. There were people from US and everywhere, and we spent 4 days, 5 days just talking about stories, crafting stories and being on stage. When I get to realize their struggles are just equal to my struggles, maybe even more. They go through the same crisis in life as I do. The problem is when we are not willing to be vulnerable, when we're not willing to open up, when we're putting a facade. How can somebody enter your store if there is a door? You have to open the door. You have to be yourself. People all across do you think Latinos have a great